Okay. Loyalty and obedience. Again, as we kind of mentioned in the last video, these are two separate things, but we need to find themes and ideas that kind of connect them both, so we can talk about, loyalty and obedience within one body paragraph. I always recommend not to do, a paragraph on loyalty and a paragraph on obedience, and then you're kind of stuck. What do you do the third one on, right? You have to think of something else. It's always weak, right? Instead, think about like, well, what are the messages about loyalty, and that are also, one of the messages about obedience, right? So, let's think about loyalty. Um, Loyalty to the country in Black Diggers, loyalty to the slave owners, yeah, and obedience to the slave owners, yeah. Um, but even obedience to country, I guess, you know. But obedience in this sense, I think this kind of obedience, is interesting because we can really, talk about difference here. And something I haven't talked too much about in these videos is, um, sometimes I read these essays and they're just pretending like they're exactly the same text, that they agree on everything. Well, in Longest Memory, he is both loyal, like Whitechapel is both loyal and obedient to, Mr. Whitechapel. But the people who go to war, they're perhaps loyal to Australia, but they're certainly not obedient to Australia. They're uh, they lie to get in. You know um, they're subverting, these unjust rules. So, um, what are we saying about loyalty and obedience here, right? Perhaps, that, um, you know, well, certainly one fascinating thing about one exciting thing, I guess, is about this one is there's so much you can say, right? It's really saying, well, discuss the two texts, under the, frame of loyalty and obedience. But like, so anything I talk about, is really, so many different ways to attack it. Like, for example, you could talk about how, loyalty and obedience are, uh, not, at all guaranteeing, um, special privileges, right? Or that just because you're loyal to somebody, and obedient to somebody, doesn't mean they'll be a loyal or obedient to you. It can be very one-sided. Or perhaps, it's that, loyalty and obedience are, not always good things, right? And they might result in, bad, outcomes. Or perhaps your essay could be that, you have to choose who you're loyal to. If you you know being loyal to your country doesn't mean that your country is going to, reward you when you come back. But perhaps if you're loyal to your war, colleagues, then, that will pay off. Right? There's that speech at the end of, Black Diggers about how, despite all the horror, he's happy, that he went because it made him one. He had experienced that moment. Or perhaps you could talk about disloyalty and disobedience. And that in some way, it's a good thing, right? Or at least disobedience. That, that, um, the only moment that they felt alive was during the war, or that the only moment that Chapel felt really, like a human being as opposed to a slave, was when he was learning with literature, back to back in the middle of the night. Um, yeah, so there's so much to say. I don't even know really where to start. Um, I guess, start with your contention, break it down, make sure you're talking about loyalty and obedience, the same kind of stuff that we had before. Make sure you have, um, uh, your topic sentence, and then you'll have like a black diggers paragraph, and then loyalty and obedience will have two sections. I don't know how that works. Then like a transition sentence. So this is also true, right? And then longest memory, and then like a linking statement. And I will say, like, the more that in the second half you want to be using a lot of comparative language, comparing back into here, right? As you do that. But that's just now we're getting to just structure of comparative texts. So yeah, um, yeah, I think that's all I have for you actually. There's so much to do. We need to talk about this have in 5 minutes. But nearly anything you want to say in any of the other topics could probably be used. Like if we have a look, kind of as we kind of go back, what we talk about with injustice and inequality, right? Well, we could certainly talk about how loyalty and obedience doesn't result in justice, or at all equality. Sense of dignity, right? One can't hope to succeed. The sense of hope that perhaps loyalty um, to ideas or to an ideal of success, of freedom, might result in good outcomes. But perhaps in order to be loyal to this ideal, you have to be disobedient to those who want to talk to you. You know what I mean? Like, oh, sorry, the elders or the established authority. Education. That maybe you want to be. We could have a very similar kind of essay that being loyal to education is not going to result. You need to be disobedient. There's so many different ways to go. They're just hard to wrap it up into 10 minutes. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say to you today. Yeah, I'll see you in class.